Julia Coates.
Here.
Bradley Cobb.
Mahoney.
Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishinghawk.
Here.
Curtis Rayleigh.
Here.
Janelle Fulbright.
Here.
Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Here.
China Glory Jordan.
Present.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Chris Stuck.
Here.
David Thornton.
Present.
Eric Helen Watts.
Mahoney.
We do have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Next order of business is approval of the February 16th regular session minutes.
I move they be approved.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion on the minutes as written? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, next order of business is State of the Nation, Principal Chief Chad Smith.
It's my great opportunity to appear in front of you on this March 15th for the State of the Cherokee Nation. Tonight we pay our respects to many Cherokee families and friends who have left this life before us. Judy Robinson, who was employed for almost 20 years at the early childhood unit in Head Start. Totem Hare, the father of employee Juanita Bark, known as a great craftsman and traditional leader. And Jan Mowdy is a longtime manager with our behavioral health program. Before I ask for a moment of silence, is there anybody else that the council would like to recognize at this time? Mr. Baker.
Yes, we lost Lee J. Perry Jr., the son of Ruby Perry at the golf course here locally, and Eloy Riles. We lost him this last week, both Cherokee citizens.
Yes, sir.
Alice Tyner Timmons, who worked at the Western History Collection for many years.
Thank you. Thank you.
Emma Russell, CNE for 16 years, and just passed away and had her funeral last week.
Yes, sir.
Matthew Fields from Little Kansas, passed away a couple weeks ago.
If there's no others, let's bow our head for a moment of silence. Amen. It's been always a pleasure for me and Deputy Chief Joe Grayson to honor our Cherokee warriors, our veterans. Each veteran deserves to know that we appreciate their sacrifice and their service. And it seems that every time we do this, it's a special occasion. It seems how could one occasion be even more special than the next? And I think tonight is a great one. We'd like to first honor Charlie Soap, who was born on March 25th, 1945, to Florence and Watts Soap, both full-blood bilingual Cherokees. Charlie served in the United States Navy from 1965 to 1969, received an honorable discharge. Charlie says he enlisted in the Navy because of Joe Crittenden. Apparently, the Navy recruiter at that time was quite a salesman and made the service sound really good. Charlie's basic training was in San Diego, and he served his entire naval time on the USS Regal. On ship, Charlie was a winch operator moving supplies all over the world. The ship went to Europe, the Caribbean, Norway, Spain, Greece, and many other countries during Charlie's 4-year service. When an officer discovered that Charlie had college experience, he was moved to the ship's main office as a personnel man. It was unusual to find a serviceman who stayed on one ship his entire length of service. Charlie thinks another reason the ship was so eager to keep him was his abilities on the ship's basketball team and fast pitch teams. Charlie has dedicated much of his life to helping others, especially the Cherokee people. Today, he serves our tribe as a group leader of community service. And Charlie, we certainly thank you for your service to the nation.
my chance.
Don't miss it.
It's my great privilege and honor to present you with this certificate on behalf of the Cherokee Nation for your services as a veteran. We appreciate you very much.
Charlie, we have a special gift for you, and I'll hold that for you. And you can unfurl that if you want to. Is it safe? It's safe. It's not booby trap. This Navy flag has flown over the Warriors Memorial.
Thank you.
Would you care to say a word, please?
Well, actually, I enjoyed the time in the military. I think it was a good experience. And actually, it was Joe's fault. Because Joe had joined the Navy, and his brother came and asked me if I would take him to enlist. And because at the time I planned on going to college, and they asked me if I was interested, and I said no. That recruiter said, "If you're going to college, we don't want you." And I said, "Okay." But the more you talked, the better it sounded. So next thing I was signing my name on the line, but I got to see a lot of the world in the Mediterranean, European countries, like Joe said, the Caribbean, and up in North Atlantic Sea, and I did play a lot of sports for the Sixth Fleet. I was on a basketball team and softball team for them, and but Joe, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a good time for me, and I'd like to say it helped me grow up, but sometimes I still say it takes some of us longer to grow up than some of the others. So thank you very much. It's an honor to serve the country.
And of course, who presented and pinned the medal on Charlie, the Cherokee Nation's Medal of Patriotism, was former Chief Wilma Mankiller, and we're very honored to have you here tonight. Would you care to say a word from where you're sitting, Chief Mankiller? You don't want to tell on Charlie tonight? Our second recipient is James Kingfisher, born in Claremore, Oklahoma, and graduated from Kansas High School. While attending NSU, James joined the Army Reserve Officers Training Corps and attended basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky. He became an officer in the Armor Branch of the United States Army as a second lieutenant in May 1990. James served in Germany as a tank platoon leader and then in Southwest Asia in support of Operation Desert Shield. James led his tank platoon on multiple combat operations and serves as an executive officer in the combat training unit, leaving active military duty in 1995. He continued to serve in the individual ready reserves as captain for the next 13 years and was called to serve on active duty again in 2008. Captain Kingfisher was deployed to Kabul, Afghanistan, where he and his team participated in over 100 combat missions. Captain Kingfisher returned to his home in Rogers, Arkansas last year. During his time in the Army, James has been awarded several campaign medals and honors, including the Army Achievement Award, the Army Commendation Medal, the Army Meritorious Service Medal, and upon his return from Afghanistan, he was awarded the Bronze Star Medal for combat actions in Afghanistan. James says he has shared his Cherokee heritage with others wherever he has been assigned around the world. Sir, thank you very much for your service.
Cherokee National Medal of Patriotism and the Cherokee Warriors Award. It is an honor you have earned, and we are very glad to give it to you, sir, and Richard P. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Here's the word.
We're a lot of family here from around this part of the country. I'd like to say thanks for coming out. Benny McCullough back in the back, he and I went through ROTC together way back when. Uncle Kurt, his son Brian, we lost a few years ago. He was in our program with me as well. So a lot of people here mean a whole lot to me. I've always supported our service. And I just want to say thanks. You guys have a veteran in your family. Go shake their hand, okay?
Thank you, sir. Next is Ray Lancaster. He was born in 1954 in Hobbs, New Mexico. He graduated from the Oklahoma Military Academy in Claremore, Oklahoma, and enlisted in the United States Marine Corps that same year. Ray has become a heavy equipment operator and was stationed at various bases around the world. In 1981, he was discharged from the Marine Corps, and 2 months later re-enlisted in the Marine Corps Reserves, where he stayed until his retirement as a G4 sergeant. In the reserves, he was a small unit infantry leader and served in Desert Shield and Desert Storm, both in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Right now resides in Sand Springs, Oklahoma. Thank you so much, sir, for your...
And that goes on top of those others. So it gives us great honor and pleasure to present you the Cherokee National Medal of Patriotism. It is an award you have earned. It's not given. Thank you for your service, sir.
Okay, sir.
It's a great honor that he presented this, and my time in the service was spent for our freedoms in peacetime and in wartime. And it's a great honor to be a Cherokee citizen. Thank you all.
In program service updates, the Cherokee Nation is participating in the 2010 census. Our Career Services Group is working now with Petco Facet businesses in Stillwell, helping them recruit for new jobs. Petco Facet and Cherokee Nation held a groundbreaking event this last week to celebrate the company's expansion, adding 60,000 square feet in building space and adding more jobs to its already 140 employees. The recurring theme at the event was the company's doing well and has such faith in its Stillwell employees that it's investing here rather than other states. We also held another cold groundbreaking ceremony a few weeks ago at the dental clinic at Salina Health Center. I want to thank the council members who attended. We'll add about 8 chairs, I understand, and about 15 employees to that expansion. Cherokee Nation's Human Services Group has announced plans to build a new food distribution center in Nowata. The structure will be built at a cost of nearly $1 million. The new services will include a food warehouse grocery store, as well as senior nutrition center, family advocate, and child care program offices. In terms of athletics, Sequoia boys and girls went to the state championship this year. Our opponent in 2 losing battles was Millwood. As all great athletic stories came, we came close to winning, but just didn't get over the hump. So they had a great, successful program. We were actually looking to, if we built Millwood, the next team would have been all right, and I think we could have got that one. Then we would have been playing in state championship against Kansas for the 3rd time this season. We were really looking forward to that opportunity, and I have to commend Kansas for winning the state championship. A predominant number of kids on their team was Cherokee. So congratulations, Mr. Snell and your team. He was very gracious when he won. I don't know how he would have been if he had lost. Cherokee Nation held a cancer summit a week ago to bring awareness to cancer issues like prevention and survivor support, as well as treatment and other topics. More than 1.4 million people were diagnosed with some sort of cancer last year, and our health staff continues to fight cancer on behalf of our people. The Cherokee Nation has won another certificate of excellence for our efforts to promote health. The program is supported by the Oklahoma Turning Point Council, the Academy for State Goals, the Oklahoma State Department of Health, and the State Chamber of Commerce. This award recognizes our healthy lifestyle initiatives like our fitness center, healthy cooking courses, and our legislation declaring the government buildings and property as smoke and tobacco-free environments. I personally want to thank our staff for all their hard work to make these healthy lifestyle initiatives promotable. A roads program entered into a partnership with officials in Washington County to rebuild and resurface more than 4 miles of roads in Durham Road. Our tribe contributed to $275,000 for that project. The Cherokee Nation will host a public educational symposium tomorrow and Wednesday, March 16th and 17th at the Tsalagi Community Room behind the Restaurant of the Cherokees. Topics will cover environmental issues of interest to area Cherokee Nation citizens and other community members, including factors affecting pollution levels within the Illinois River, which will be discussed on Tuesday, and information regarding saltwater injection wells, which is set for Wednesday morning. For contact information, contact our environmental programs. These are huge issues, and we've invited all of our staff to attend because those are issues that we need to be conversant in. And one of those things that we really have to understand what is a TDML. It takes a while for the anachronisms to sink in. And TDML is total daily maximum load. And it basically means how much junk can you throw in the river and still survive. And it's just amazing what's going into our river and how it affects our environment. David Thornton is also concerned with the issues of saltwater injection in the Vian community, and that will be addressed on Wednesday morning. I've been asked by the Tulsa Run organization to be a lead runner in this October's Tulsa Run, which is a 15K. Training starts now, and the Cherokee Nation Wings program is going to help me encourage other Cherokee runners to join us. There are several runs that day to choose from. There's a 1-mile fun run, there's a 5K, and a 15K. And so I'll be issuing challenges to our own employees and perhaps challenge some of the 5 tribes if they'll participate. And I'd certainly like to extend the same challenge and opportunity to each of the council. So you can start training now for a 1-mile fun run, a 5K, or join me for the 15K. In our announcements, the Veneta Health Center has relocated to 525 South Wilson and is expanding some of its services, including extra nutrition and dietary services, as well as some of our behavioral health services. Sequoia School's summer learning program for the 4th through the 12th grades will begin July 5th through 16th. Interested parents can call the school for information. We're hosting a Veterans Honor Dinner this Thursday at 5:30 at Sequoia School's cafeteria, and we encourage all of our veterans and friends of veterans to come and in some small way show our commitment and appreciation for our veterans' contributions and sacrifices. I also want to announce and welcome Bill Lay as a new Cherokee Nation Waste Management CEO. Is Bill here tonight? Okay. He's a tribal member from up north, and he has lots of years of experience with waste management. Also, I want to introduce Pat Ragsdale as the new Government Resources Group Leader. And Pat is no stranger to the Cherokee Nation, who is our marshal. He served in many capacities. He had a long career with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Also, I'd like to reintroduce Paula Ragsdale, and she was in our government relations office in D.C., and now she's back with us working with council relations and other issues. And I would like for you to join me right now in wishing her a happy belated birthday. Yesterday was her birthday. And if she hadn't reacted, we'd be singing happy birthday to her. And so I'd like to close with a story. We had a great opportunity this last Sunday. Bobby and I went to Selma, Alabama for the 45th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. 45 years ago, in 1965, several hundred protesters assembled at Brown's Chapel's AME Church in Selma and proceeded to the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And they went there in a peaceful procession to protest the discrimination in voting rights. John Lewis, a young man at that time, was there. As they crossed the the crest of the bridge, and in pictures it looks huge. In reality, it's much smaller. But in that day, it must have looked huge and forbearing, because as they got to the crest of the bridge and looked down over the Alabama River, there was a sea of blue. Alabama State Police on foot with mace and clubs and horses. They went down that bridge. And when they got there, the commander says, you have 1 minute to disperse. And before that minute was out, the Alabama police charged. Macing, beating, and the crowd retreated bloody, but not beaten, back to Brown Chapel's church. Today, John Lewis is a congressman from Georgia. And just a few months ago, John Lewis came to the Cherokee Nation during our holiday and visited us. And if you recall his words at the holiday powwow and at the State of the Nation, he never knew about the Trail of Tears or our people, but he said on each of those occasions, until my last breath and my last day in Congress, I'll be a friend of the Cherokee Nation. So we have the great opportunity to be with him on a day of significance and that should be remembered. And Bobby and I had the opportunity to sit on the front row in Brown's Chapel as they had their worship service remembering that day. And of course, their services last a little bit longer than here. It went on for 3 hours, but it was quite stimulating, moving, and inspirational. The singing, the preaching, the talks. And at one point in the service, to our surprise, they introduced guests. They introduced the Georgia legislators, about 7 members of the United States Congress, and they introduced me and asked me to say a word. And I told them about our Trail of Tears and how in 1980 was only then that Georgia repealed its laws declaring Indians to be incompetent witnesses in its courts. And then I mentioned the story of Benny Smith, saying that the Creator had sent 4 messages that we should emulate and learn from. The messenger from the east brought guardianship and is signified by the color brown. The messenger from the north is signified by the color blue and brings analytical intelligence. The messenger from the west is yellow and brings wisdom. And the messenger from the south, indicated by the color black, brought great emotion. And I said that was conducted in ancient Cherokee thought long before people characterized each other by color. But if you chose today to use that ancient Cherokee thought, perhaps the indigenous people, the brown people from the east, bring guardianship. And the blue-veined people, the white people, bring analytical intelligence. And the Asian people, the yellow people from the west, bring wisdom. And from the south, the black people of great emotion bring its gift, and that we all should be thankful for the gifts that the Creator has given. So I think in my behalf and Tommy Tucker, who sat with us on that front row, we were all moved and appreciative that we've all faced challenges, overcome those challenges. But we all understand, too, we must relive those moments so the lessons there will never be forgotten. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for your patience with me this evening. I try to be as brief as you chastise me to be. Awa. Wado. Thank you.
I just want to take a minute to say thank you for honoring Charlie. I've met thousands of people, and he still is one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met, and he deserves this honor. And I also wanted to thank all of you and Chad and Joe for your service to Cherokee people. And the greatest honor I ever had was serving as an elected official of the Cherokee Nation. And I know it required dedication and hard work and time away from your families. I just want to thank you for that. I'm very proud to be a member of the Cherokee Nation, and I'm very proud of all of you. And one of the things that I learned over time is that I've managed to keep relationships with people that I had political differences with over the years, and because I respected the fact that they would step up and take a leadership role. So I just wanted to thank all of you for honoring Charlie and for honoring the other veterans, and say how proud I am to be a member of the Cherokee Nation. Thank you.
very much, Wilma. We appreciate those kind comments. Next order of business is action on unfinished business. Last month, legislation was approved by a majority of the Tribal Council for the construction of and improving access to Cherokee-owned homes. The legislation was sent to the principal chief to sign into law. Subsequently, he vetoed the legislation, stating his objections as written herein. Now, there are a couple of options for us to consider this evening, and one is we can return the legislation to committee to reconsider, which will require 9 votes, or we can override the principal chief's veto, which will require 12 votes. So at this point, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Hoskins?
I would move to send this legislation to the Executive Finance Committee at the end of this month.
I second.
Moved in second? Yes.
Madam Speaker, if I can speak to the motion.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I continue to think, and I know Councilman Bill John Baker continues to think, that this is important legislation. It may not affect a great deal of people, but those who need this assistance are in great need. So I continue to see that the need is there. I have had occasion to talk to some of my colleagues, and I do think that there is some thoughtful, constructive criticism about some of the elements of the legislation. I do want to say that in the chief's veto message, I think that he misses the mark. I think that the claims that the chief makes about the cost of this program doesn't withstand even the mildest of scrutiny, Madam Speaker. He suggests that this program is unlimited, open-ended, and that it could potentially cost $100 million for every citizen of the Cherokee Nation to have a paved driveway. That, of course, was not the intent, and you don't have to take my word for it. You just simply need to look at Section 5, Part C, that says applicants must meet income guidelines established by the Cherokee Nation administration. This gave wide discretion to the administration to carry out what is truly the spirit of this legislation, which is to help those in need. And so I do think that I can apply, so that I can tweak it a bit, and I will bring those amendments up, and I know Councilman Bill John Baker joins me in that. We'll revisit it again. I appreciate the thoughtful criticism that some members of the council have offered. I do reject the chief's veto message as missing the mark, but I think we can work on it at the end of this month. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any other discussion? Yes, Ms. Calm-Watts?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was hoping for some clarification from our council attorney, because I believe under past actions, when we moved a vetoed piece of legislation back to committee, it effectively sustained the veto and it died. So I was hoping for clarification on that.
Right now, the legislative act before you is either to sustain or to override the chief's veto, or do nothing, which is table, which we've done in the past. A vote to move back to committee, as Ms. Kellen-Watts would say, is effectively killing the bill and starting afresh with the legislative process. What I would, and I've spoke with you, Ms. Speaker, and Mr. Hoskins. I think for the cleanest legislative record at this point is I would recommend either an up or down vote on to override. I know that there is an executive finance committee coming forward. I know that Mr. Hoskins has submitted a legislative act for consideration. So instead of a vote to send it back, I would recommend either a vote to override the veto or a motion to table.
Well, with that, Madam Speaker, I would move to table. I do want to note that the amended legislation is in the works and was prepared to be at the end of this month. In fact, I may well ask the committee's grace to amend the agenda at the next Thursday's committee meeting and circulate that legislation between now and then. But I would then withdraw my motion and make a motion to table.
Second. Moved and second to table. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Table to next month. Next, order of business, our committee.
I'd like to amend the agenda, if it'd be fine with you.
Right. Did we have a second?
Second.
Made a motion to amend? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Out of our committees today, we passed 4 new items, and out of education and culture, we'd add 9, 10, 11, and 12. We have 8 items on our agenda tonight. The first one would be a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Native Americans, sponsored by Julia Coates. Item 10 would be a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Native Americans Esther Martinez, Native American Language Preservation Act, sponsored by Ms. Coates. Number 11 is a resolution recognizing Reverend Charles Walker as a friend of the Cherokee Nation, sponsored by Councilman Jack Baker. Passed out of Resource Committee today would be item number 12 that we'd add to the agenda, and be a resolution authorizing the sale of inherited property in the state of Oklahoma, and it's also sponsored by Councilman Jack Baker. I stand to be corrected, at state of California.
Right. Any discussion on amending?
Second the motion. I'd like to add my name as co-sponsor of the 2 education resolutions.
Okay. Got that. Number 9 and number 10.
Right.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of amending agenda as submitted by Mr. Amon, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now reports. Mr. Sutherland, Housing Authority. Good evening, Mr. Sutherland.
Good evening. It's good to be back at work and here at the council meeting this month. Have a brief report. This month's Housing Authority Board meeting had to be rescheduled due to some conflicts. It was scheduled for tomorrow evening. We rescheduled that for the 29th in the Allen Hogner Conference Room. The meeting will begin at noon. We do have a lengthy agenda, but several of those items are just updates on matters that's been ongoing for a while. The board is going to discuss changing its meeting times. We've had to revise the meetings now for the last few months due to some conflicts. On the program side, we have over 2,350 families currently participating in the Community Shield. Staff's been busy sending out the renewals, which began in March. We spend a great deal of time working with Ameren to make sure our list and their list are kosher and are the same. It's a chore keeping up with that, but we're keeping Ameren in line. So we're hard at work on that. I want to update council on an ongoing court case that had the potential to affect Indian housing funds. It's been going on 2 or 3 years, so hopefully some of you all will remember that case, and if not, well, don't hesitate to holler and I'll give you more details. It's the Fort Peck Housing Authority versus HUD case. Excuse me. Fort Peck sued HUD, alleging HUD had been administering the formula funding in error. The district court ruled in favor of Fort Peck. Of course, HUD appealed that in the 11th Circuit. I believe it was 11th Circuit. It might have been 10th Circuit. I can't remember now. Appeals court overturned that decision just a couple of weeks ago. Had the decision stood, several $1 million in housing funds could have been paid out to various tribes to make up for HUD's error. And we could have actually enjoyed some of that fruit, but it's all gone now apparently. So we don't have to stay up at night worrying about it. It's not there. So that's been taken care of. That's my report for the evening. Be happy to answer any questions if anyone's got anything.
It's not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next 2 reports are Cherokee Nation Entertainment and Cherokee Nation Business. Mr. Stewart. Good evening, David.
Good evening. I have good news to report about C&E. January was a very challenging month, but it was 30% above December. And we're seeing great results in February. And February may be one of the top 3 months in the history of C&E. So our staff continues to work on being more efficient, and we're hoping to get a gear out of the economy. If we can do that, then I think the rest of the year will be great. The projects are going well. The West Siloam Hotel and the Hard Rock Theater are on schedule, and we're about 60% complete with the dirt work at Ramona. We have a new Italian cafe, La Cucina, which is opened Sunday at Hard Rock. and we'll start on a Starbucks at Hard Rock. So we have a lot going on. The OCO campaign for cultural tourism is being very well received. With, I think we have 47 groups booked, so that we're seeing that working very well for us. And we had a lot of effort and dollars going to that campaign. I think it's in the best interest of the nation. We're improving all the properties around the 14 counties, and that's going very well. I'd like to remind you that the Supreme Court dedication is set for April the 7th. I think that's a new date. So that would conclude my report for C&E, if there's any questions.
Questions, comments on Cherokee Nation Entertainment? Continue on.
Okay. Cherokee Nation businesses, all of the companies are doing well and they're all profitable. What we are doing currently with the companies, meeting with them, providing them resources to help them succeed, and providing governance and all of the typical governing type activities that you would think the parent company would provide. So that is going very well. We're continuing to look at opportunities to diversify. Nothing to report, but we have 3 or 4 companies that we're looking at, and I'll keep you posted as all that comes together.
Any questions? Yes, Ms. Fishinghawk?
David, last month I asked for a statement from your ethics board, to which Mr. Grass is a member of, to explain tonight whether they did or did not find it a conflict of interest for a CNI board member to do business with CNI, and I haven't got it yet.
Okay, well, I thought we talked about that, but I will say that
they said there was a letter prepared. It's just not been sent to us yet.
Yeah, actually, the disclosure was made by the board member, the conflict of interest statement, and then essentially what we did is we decided that that was not a good practice, so all of those activities were terminated. There was some minor work that a board member's company was doing for the company. I think it was in trying to help the company out, but we just decided that it was in best interest not to do that. So that's not occurring anymore.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for that brief report.
Thank you.
Cherokee Nation Industries, Brian, Mr. Dvorstep.
Good evening.
Thank you.
I'm standing in for Brian. He's on vacation. January results for C&I were good. Revenue was $8.6 million versus a budget of $9.7, so we fell a little short on revenue. But our operating profit was $178,000 versus a budgeted loss of $166. So we had substantial improvement versus budget. Year to date through January, C&I has a profit of $505,000 versus a budgeted loss of $1.2 million. January employment total is 506, of which Native American total is 424, or 84%. Some other good news is that our business segment in manufacturing will be receiving an award from Lockheed Martin, Small Business Award, on April 28 for our involvement with Lockheed's multiple launch rocket system, building some harnesses. That's my report, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions for Ms. Gloria Jordan?
Have we completely shut down now the construction arm of CNI?
No, ma'am. There's still two projects we're working on, which we plan on finalizing them between the summer and the end of this year.
And when will we know the total loss concerning the construction arm?
At that time. You talking about Bentley Park or in?
Can you give us a date of when you're going to bring that forward so we know about it?
You talking about Bentley Park?
I'm talking about all of construction.
Well, once we finalize those projects, we'll have a total loss regarding construction at that time.
And you will provide that information to the council?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Right now, the remaining two projects we have are projected to have a small profit.
And what are those two projects?
Eastern Central Oklahoma Electric, and the Tahlequah City building in Tahlequah.
And we are going to make a profit, you're projecting a profit on the Okmulgee project?
Both of them, yes.
Okay.
Ms. Fishing Hawk?
I thought we was out of the Tahlequah City project. I mean, are we talking about Tahlequah City Hospital?
Yes.
And we're still involved in that?
Yes, ma'am. We are.
Anything else? Ms. Gloria Jordan?
I still haven't received the year's worth of minutes that I requested 3 months ago. Would you check and see why we're not receiving those?
Anyone else? Okay, thanks for being here this evening.
Thank you.
The next order of business is old business, and it's a resolution authorizing the confirmation of Mr. Grass, William Grass, to the Cherokee Medical Services Board. Mr. Anglin, would you take that one?
Madam Speaker, this is a resolution, and it's confirming the nomination of William Grass as a member of the Board of Managers of the Cherokee Medical Services, LLC. And I'd move for his approval.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Ms. Fishing Hawk?
Yes, I was just now told something by CNI that I believed wasn't happening at this time, and it has to do something with William Graff and the CNI Board of Directors, because Mr. William Graff serves on the Ethics Board that, I guess, for lack of a better word, said it was okay, and they were okay with believing there was no conflict of interest for a CNI board member to be doing business with CNI. And Mr. Grass sat on that ethics board that said that was okay, and then we had to go get an ethics ruling. And I moved for us to table him until this gets cleared up.
Do I have a second? I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
I would second that. I also share a great concern of placing this gentleman.
No discussion on tabling.
On any other
All
boards.
in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call. Yes is to table.
Julia Coates,
Yes.
Bradley Cobb,
No.
Joe Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishing Hawk,
Yes.
Meredith Rayleigh,
No.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
No.
Huskin Jr.,
Yes.
Hannah Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Chris Stowe,
No.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Kara Kellen Watts,
No.
Buell Anglin,
No.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
No.
Harley Buzzard.
No.
We have 9 yes and 8 no.
9 yes, 8 no. It is tabled. Okay, under new business, out of Community Services Committee is a resolution covering the 2008 Indian Housing Plan. Mr. Buzzard? Excuse me.
This resolution is some changes to the 2008 Indian Housing Plan. I make a motion that the resolution be approved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Baker?
I'm not going to vote for this. I'm not going to vote for another housing plan that doesn't include building houses.
Any other discussions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't see Mr. Thornton's hand.
Does anyone here from the housing plan?
He can provide technical information.
I'll do my best. David, what still is bothering me is that we're giving the Marshal Service a substantial amount of money out of that program, and we've been told that right now that shouldn't be happening, and I don't know where we are on that. Do you know where we are on that?
I know that, and probably should defer to someone else if they're here. Maybe Callie, yeah. I'm not real familiar with other departments as far as their funding at this point. I just kind of keep mine and keep track of mine.
Madam Speaker?
Yes, Kathleen?
Are you referring to the HUD review that was done recently? There is an ongoing finding from that. However, we continue to work with HUD. There's not been anything that says you cannot fund Marshal Service out of Nahasda. It's just a matter of if they want information on baseline services, and we're still working on that. The 2005 review, we did close that finding, which was the exact same thing related to the Marshal Service. We provided them the information they requested. It took several months, but that finding was closed. So I don't expect there to be any other, any issue closing this one. It just is a timely process, time-consuming process.
And what you're saying is we won't have to pay back any of that funding at all?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I don't think we will.
That's what it sounded like.
Well, we didn't have to for 2005. And HUD continues to work with us in a cooperative manner. So, you can never say for sure what the agency's going to do, but based on the 2005 finding and the positive resolution that we had to that, I'm confident that we'll continue to work and get the open one closed, which covers, I believe, 2006, 7, and 8.
How much funding is it?
I think Marshal Service gets about $900 a year from Nahasda, so it would be those 3 years.
Let me add one thing. There was a negotiated rulemaking session that started, I think it was the 8th and 9th of this month. Marvin Jones is actually sits on the negotiated rulemaking committee. One of the things that come out of that is that HUD is open to discussing other issues and not just negotiating what the amendments to the Nahasda law have been. One of the issues specific was this issue. And my take on the whole thing is HUD says, well, you have a baseline to justify your funding. Well, HUD won't tell you what that baseline is. They don't define it. They don't give you any. So hopefully, at the very least, we can negotiate a starting point of what it is. If we can define that, then we kind of know what they're looking for. Right now, I don't know that we know what they're looking for as far as a baseline. So it's neither here nor there. It doesn't answer your question, but it's just something that's coming up. The next meeting is the last 2 or 3 days of this month, and then there's 4 or 5 different meetings they've got scheduled. So hopefully something positive can come out of that to address this issue.
When does this plan have to be passed?
The plan really doesn't address what you're talking about. It just moves around some funding within, as I understand it. It's been a while since I've seen the revision. Did a lot to move some funding with the stimulus funds.
And Kelly, Marvin's sitting in.
Oh, where's Marvin?
Marvin,
I'm yield to him. He knows more about it than I do.
Yes, we tried to.
Mr. Thornton, you still have the floor.
Thank you.
Good evening. I was searching the web and come across this meeting. No. If I could answer the last question and any other questions. The last question, this is an important Indian housing plan to pass tonight because it's pertaining only to the stimulus funding. What it's doing is making adjustments into the stimulus funding that we have, and it's critical because in early April we have to obligate 100% of the funds, or we risk losing some of the funding. So what it does, it adjusts the funding to get it to where, in essence, David's group, David Sutherland's group, is wanting to adjust funding from rehab to modernization, et cetera. That's contained in the amendment. This happens to be a particularly important Indian housing plan because we got to get it up to HUD.
And this plan doesn't concern any Marshall funding?
No, not at all. It only pertains to the stimulus funding. We will bring another Indian housing plan, 2008 Indian housing plan revision later, and it will in fact address all the other issues. And so at that point there may be something to do with Marshal Service, but not in this particular amendment.
Well, thank you for being on your computer.
Since we're still in discussion, Ms. Gloria Jordan?
Marvin, have we, to this day, established the baseline objectives for the Marshal Service to receive funding?
The short answer, I think, was addressed a while ago, is that we can't figure out what HUD wants. You appreciate this about the Supreme Court justice who said he didn't know what pornography was, he just knew it when he saw it. Well, apparently HUD hasn't seen an adequate baseline that we've tried to provide. I will note that we don't see any provision in the law or the regulations that require such a baseline, and that's the central part of what we're addressing. We believe that HUD is inappropriately asking for that, even with that we've tried to accommodate what they're asking for by trying to develop something called a baseline. It just hasn't been acceptable yet to HUD, and their response is, we can't tell you what it is, but keep sending us stuff and eventually we'll figure out. What they're really trying to do is they're trying to get us to tell them how much law enforcement money that we provide absent Nahalsta, which doesn't have anything to do with our housing funding. They're saying, if you didn't have Nahalsta, how much money would you be providing in the way of law enforcement to these specific HUD housing?
Are we keeping a log? Is the Marshal Service keeping a log when they participate in activities concerning our housing?
My understanding and questions and comments to them over the last couple of years is they say that yes, they are. I specifically have asked them that we need to be able to justify every dollar absent a baseline. The baseline doesn't make a bit of difference. It's that we need to justify, such as an example would be, you make 10 calls, or they go out on 10 calls, and if we're spending 40% of the money from Nahalsta, then we need to have gone to 4 calls that are Nahalsta funded housing as one means to justify the use of the Nahalsta funds.
Have you seen or been provided with diaries or logs that keep this information?
I haven't. The Nahalsta, the evaluation and compliance people, which was formerly Don Bond's group, within Government Resources, has reviewed their paperwork, and they'd be better able to answer, what kind of information the Marshal Service might be documenting.
And you'll continue to monitor the situation?
Yes. I'm, as David mentioned during the negotiated rulemaking, have discussed with HUD, and we actually sent them a letter giving them an example of where we believe that HUD is requiring something not in the law and regulations, and that we would want to try to address it either in a negotiated rulemaking or some other sort of forum, and they've agreed to do that. So we're going to aggressively pursue it from that angle. The next negotiated rulemaking where we might determine if in fact we'll be able to address that issue for sure will be a couple of weeks. So we'll be able to.
And lastly, what is that current date now that the appeal needs to be resolved? I know they keep extending it, and is there another date?
I can't answer that. I did at your request at our last work group meeting ask about our latest response, and I think that there was a response due, and because of some circumstance it wasn't given to HUD. But I think it has now. But that's Callie can answer that question if, in fact, that was submitted to them, and what the response would be. I don't know what the response would be. One additional thing is one of the people that was pressing the issue retired at the end of December. So I don't know if that's good or bad. Probably good.
Will you provide us with that information the next time you report to us in committee of what that new date may be, or whether we have gotten everything in timely to them in response to the appeal process?
Sure. I asked the staff as to whether or not that we had given you copies of all the latest information, and that's when this one document was, we figured out that one document hadn't been submitted to HUD. So I think that to the extent that has been sent in, I believe we can get you a copy of that here in hopefully the next couple of days, and any kind of HUD response. Again, Callie might can enlighten us as to, I don't know whether that document has been sent in or whether there's been a subsequent response.
Could we maybe have Callie answer that? And then I have one other question on what we're doing tonight.
On the Indian Housing Plan?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that the response, the deadline that was missed, that was my fault. It was due the week my husband was killed, and I just overlooked it.
But we did get it in.
I have the information. This just came to light actually when Marvin was questioning, and I have the information from the Marshal Service. I'm reviewing that. I have not sent it back to HUD yet because I wanted to thoroughly review it, but I will get it to them. And as Marvin said, one reason it slipped through the cracks, the person who was pushing this so hard on HUD's side has retired, and I honestly forgot about it with everything else that was going on. But I will get it into them.
Okay. And I have one other question for Marvin. Marvin, remind us what Objective 6A in the 2008 Indian Housing Plan is.
Okay. Let's see. What are you looking?
I'm looking at number.
Okay. Objective 6A is the amount set aside for administration and planning. It's just a general objective saying we'll spend less than 20% of the total grant for administration and planning. I think that our amount, at least for the stimulus funding, far from being 20%, you can see it's 200 or being changed to 293,812 out of approximately 12 million. So that percentage is 4 or 5% probably.
So 3 and 5 kind of go hand in hand then.
That's correct. Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, that is a percentage down there. It's actually changing it to 2.44% of the total grant. The maximum is 20%.
Because this is stimulus funds, I want to support this tonight, but I too share Mr. Baker's concern that we're getting approximately $30 million a year and we're failing to build houses with it, folks. And someday, I think somebody's going to want to know where all that money's went and where those houses are at. So I also share Mr. Baker's concern. I am going to vote for this tonight because I know these stimulus funds come with deadlines. But at some point, we must address whether we're going to be in the house building business or whether these funds are just going to be siphoned off to different departments and we're not going to have anything to show years later to our people that we met their housing needs. Thank you, Marvin.
Hold on. Ms. Fishinghawk, did you have a question for Marvin?
Are you telling me that number 5 is just repeating number 3? It's not a different extent?
Number 5 is putting it in percentage terms. Number 3 is telling how much the dollar amount increases. They're one and the same thing. The Indian Housing Plan has 2 different places. One, you put the actual dollar amounts you plan to expend for something, and then in a different section of the Indian Housing Plan, it asks you how much of that percentage is for administration and planning.
Mr. Hoskin.
I withdraw, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
One opposed. Shelley. Okay. And approved in Resource Committee was an amendment to the Hunting and Fishing Code, and it has several sponsors. Mr. Crittenden, would you take that one?
Madam Speaker, yes, I will. I'll be glad to. This came out of Natural Resource Department. It's an act. It shall be known as the Culturally Protected Species Act. Its purpose is to protect species that have cultural significance to the Cherokee Nation and its people via rules, regulations, and our authorities forbidding to take, to include but not be limited to harassment, harming, pursuit, hunt, shoot, wound, kill, trap, capture, or collect, or to attempt to engage in any such conduct of such species. Culturally protected species under this act include the bald eagle, the black bear, and the mountain lion, also known as the puma or the cougar, and any other plant, animal, aquatic species designated as a culturally protected species. Other species may be designated in the future as culturally protected species as determined by regulations established by the Natural Resource Department and approved by the Environmental Protection Commission. Mr. Pat Gwynn is here if anyone has any questions about this. And with all of that, I would move for the approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any questions for Mr. Gwynn? Okay, do you want, this is an amendment. Do you want this by acclamation?
Yes, ma'am, please.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And approved in Rules Committee is a resolution confirming the nomination of Rob Thompson to the editorial board. Ms. Calwatch, would you take that one?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to make a motion to approve Mr. Rob Thompson as a member of the Cherokee Phoenix editorial board.
Second the motion.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 4 is an amendment to the Jobs Growth Act. The purpose of this amendment is to form one board of directors rather than having a board of directors for each of our major corporations. Currently, there tends to be some duplication and confusion as to the strategic direction of each of our corporations. And the intent, I believe, of this amendment was to bring more cohesive control and ensure that all of our companies are strategically aligned. I believe this is a move in the right direction, and but it will, I think, better improve our chances for self-sufficiency, not only for the Cherokee people, but for the Cherokee government. And I would entertain a motion.
I move to be approved.
Second.
Moved second. Any discussion? And Mr. Stewart is here if you have any questions.
Madam Speaker, I have one question.
Okay.
Will we, as the council, be involved as this unfolds and logistically how we start narrowing the board possibly and structuring the businesses under one unit?
Yes, there are a lot of mechanics that are going to have to happen for these boards to be essentially terminated. The operating agreements will be changed. So there will be this one board that will make decisions. So at this point, the board members any change would be appointed by the chief and ratified by council. But I think that essentially provides that everybody steps up at one point. So it would be the normal course of business. If there's a rotation of a board member, then it would be proposed and you would vote on that. I guess that's accurate.
That would be correct.
Yeah.
Also, as you know by legislative act, members of the tribal council are also advisory board members on each separate board of directors. We are going to work on amending that act to ensure that there is still that conduit of information from advisory board members to the council as a whole. But that's also going to make sure that we ensure that there's not a majority of the tribal council as an advisory board that meets with this bigger or super board of directors. I'm working on the details on it, but you can expect an amendment to that Title 18 piece of legislation in the very near future.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes,
Can I ask Todd a question? Todd, we have 3 advisory board members for each of the groups.
That is correct.
So if we don't bring it down some,
I foresee that my suggestion is going to be 7 advisory board members to go to each of these to the super board of directors and report back to the council. I think it's important not to keep a majority.
will we be taking that up before they start meeting as a group of 17?
It is. I don't know the timetable on when they start. As I said, the wind down process of when this actually goes into effect. But it is my intention to have that legislation to this body so that it's simultaneous when they start meeting in the larger board of directors.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Baker, did you want this by
acclamation, please?
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 5 is a resolution that ratifies an off-track wagering compact, which provides some regulatory framework between the Cherokee Nation and the state of Oklahoma for certain Class 3 gaming activities. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 6 is a resolution authorizing establishment of the Gammon Educational Trust. Ms. Coates, would you take that, please?
Yes. This would authorize the establishment of a trust which would enable the Cherokee Nation to receive a bequest from the Glenn L. and Faye V. Gammon Estate for educational assistance to Cherokee students, and I move for its approval.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion? Yes, Ms.
I just want to make sure, and I guess I need to probably either address this to Councilor Coates or maybe to our legal counsel. I just want to make sure that nowhere in here does it move it from Cherokee Nation once Cherokee Nation receives it. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, not in this particular resolution, at least. Is that?
Because we have asked for an Attorney General's opinion regarding any other removal to any other group, just to make sure that we don't in any way violate our original agreement.
Right.
So have you reviewed this, Todd, and is it your opinion that it only takes it one step to Cherokee Nation?
Yes, the resolution itself takes it to the Cherokee Nation, creates the
the mechanism for us to accept the funds, although de facto we've had them. As you recall in committee, I will tell you that I know what I know and I know what I don't know. What I don't know is I'm not an expert in trust. And it's been my opinion back in 2002 and here recently that this may or may not violate the terms of the trust. That's why you have requested an Attorney General's opinion so that this council can be comfortable with making sure that its actions that does not violate the trust agreement. And that's been in committee, and that would be my statement here today.
I would like to offer a friendly amendment to Councilor Coates. My concern is the wording in the last, further be it resolved on the second page. It actually puts the money with Cherokee Nation Higher Education Program shall be the recipient to the funds of this trust, and I would like for it to possibly stop there, because what concerns me is these words, and shall assign the administration for the award of scholarships from these funds in accordance with the terms of the Glenn L. and Faye V. Gammon Trust with the approval of the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council. I don't want that. I don't want there to be any question that we don't want it to go any further at this step till we get the Attorney General's opinion. So I would suggest we be very careful and just stop in that paragraph, we shall be the recipient to the funds of this trust, period. Then the second step, once we have the Attorney General's opinion, would put us in a position whether it stays here or whether it might be assigned to someone else the duty of giving out those scholarships. And I would ask you to accept that as a friendly amendment.
I'm inclined to not accept it at this time with all respect. I'm not fearful at this point. I don't have concerns that this is going to go any further, predominantly because there is still a budget mod in which the monies themselves are actually involved, and until we deal with that, this is simply a resolution that establishes a format, and I think that we will have the time, we will have the Attorney General's opinion, so I would respectfully decline that.
I would then put that in the form of a motion that we strike the remainder of that paragraph and stop with shall be the recipient to the funds of this trust.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Mr. Baker?
Yeah, Todd, in that same sentence, it says that the education program shall be the recipient. Does that pass constitutional muster? I mean, all funds of the Cherokee, donated to the Cherokee Nation would go to the Secretary of Treasurer, and then we would go forth from there. I mean, is that going to, is this, even this sentence going to pass constitutional muster?
I believe that it was, because the gift to the Cherokee Nation has already been accepted by the Treasurer. The check has received, and we've been earning interest in it since 2002. Now, the constitutional duty of the Tribal Council is to put forth a mechanism for this funds to be administered, and so therefore I do believe that it would pass constitutional muster.
Thanks.
Any other questions, comments?
Todd, if we stop with that first sentence, will we then be in a safe position that we can look at the second step after we get the Attorney General's opinion? There be no question here that it could possibly go to someone else at this point in time?
Yes, you would, and if I might so elaborate, is that it's my understanding that the mechanism for actually the Cherokee Nation Education Corporation to actually administer these funds is not in place at this time. The council has requested an Attorney General's opinion. The safest mechanism would be to wait for that Attorney General's opinion. That's why you have an Attorney General is to make pronouncements on the law. They have a good stable of attorneys and have the resources to get outside opinions on issues such as this. Although putting a period after program would be safe, the most conservative mechanism would be to wait for the Attorney General's opinion.
Then I would ask to amend my motion and upon recommendation of our attorney, simply table this for a period of, I don't guess our Attorney General's here, but a period of 1 month to see if she can get that opinion to us.
So your motion is to
table.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor of tabling signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call. Yes is to table.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker.
No.
Harley Buzzard,
No.
Julia Coates,
No.
Bradley Cobb,
No.
Jeff Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
No.
Don Garvin,
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Tina Gloria Jordan,
Yes.
Chris So,
No.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts,
No.
Bill Englund.
No.
Can I have the floor again?
We have 8 yes and 9 no.
8 yes, 9 no. Motion to table is declined. And now, Mrs.
Then I would go back to my original motion and ask that we place a period after Shelby.
We need to vote on, she has a motion and a second, and we're in discussion. So you're making a motion now to do what?
I offered it as a friendly amendment, and Julia did not accept. So, should I? Well, I'll ask Julia again. Julia, would you accept this as a friendly amendment?
No, I will not.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Then I would make a motion that we place a period after shall be a recipient to the funds of this trust on the second page in the last paragraph. I do this just out of an abundance of caution because I'm certainly afraid if we don't cross all our I's or dot all our I's and cross all our T's, we stand a good chance that we could lose this money.
Second.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Hoskin?
Just briefly, I mean, I think it boils down to avoiding risk. And if, colleagues, if you want to avoid risk on this with absolutely no consequence, so far as I can see. In fact, our own attorney, I don't think, has identified any adverse consequence. If we want to avoid risk with no consequence, support this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes. Any other? Yes, Ms. Callan Watts?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There's several of us that have talked with some of the Gammon family members. The Education Department and Cherokee Nation Education Corporation have been working extensively, both with the lawyer who administered the trust as well as the Gammon family, is my understanding. This has been outstanding for a long time. I believe we need to be specific where it goes within the Cherokee Nation, but that it's very clear that it's fulfilling the guidelines of the trust. But what we haven't done to fulfill it is create the enabling legislation, which is what this is. There's a second piece of the memo of understanding or agreement that's sitting in committee that we would still have to do. And I think we're mixing apples and oranges on what we're trying to do. And I think we need to accept the legislation for what it is, enable the money to be put into place so that we can honor the trust and the intent of those who left these funds for these kids. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Hodgson?
Well, with all due respect, the amendment doesn't do anything to defeat that goal. So, again, if colleagues want to avoid risk and still achieve the same end, support this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we're voting on the amendment, and that amendment is to put a period in the last further be it resolved after the word of this trust. All clear? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call. yes as you support the amendment.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
No.
Don Garvin,
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Hannah Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Chris Soap,
No.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts,
No.
Bill England,
No.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
No.
Harley Buzzer,
No.
Julia Coates,
No.
Bradley Cobb,
No.
Joe Crittenden.
Yes.
Eight yes and 9 no.
8 yes, 9 no. Okay, the amendment fails. So now we will present it as written. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call, please. Yes, as you approve as written.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts,
Yes.
Bill England,
Yes.
Bill John Baker,
No.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Harley Buzzer,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
Yes.
Bradley Cobb,
Yes.
Joe Crittenden,
No.
Jody Fishinghawk, Meredith Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
No.
Hannah Glory Jordan,
No.
Chris Soap,
Yes.
Curtis Snell.
No.
We have 10 yes and 7 no.
10 yes, 7 no. Motion carries.
Can I make one comment?
Not on this one, we're on number 7 now.
Okay.
Item 7 is a resolution recognizing the late and former Deputy Principal Chief Hastings Shade as a national treasure. Mr. Baker, I know you're a friend of Mr. Shade. Would you present that?
It would be my honor and privilege. This is a resolution recognizing former Deputy Chief Hastings Shade as a national treasure of the Cherokee Nation. Whereas the Cherokee Nation, since time immemorial, has exercised the sovereign rights of self-government in behalf of the Cherokee people. Whereas the Cherokee Nation is a federally recognized Indian nation with historic and continual government-to-government relationship with the United States of America. Whereas Hastings Shade, a lifelong resident of Lost City, Oklahoma, passed from this life on February the 10th, 2010. Whereas Hastings Shade served as Deputy Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation from 1999 to 2003. Whereas Hastings was a full-blood, bilingual Cherokee citizen, the son of Tom and Leanna Stopp Shade, husband of Loretta Shade, the father of 3 sons, and a descendant of Sequoia, inventor of the Cherokee syllabary. Whereas Hastings was foremost a gentleman and a traditionalist, fluent in Cherokee language, and conversant in the Cherokee thought, with great depth of Cherokee knowledge and wisdom to share. Whereas Hastings Shade had a strong commitment to the children and to the teaching Cherokee language, culture, history, and will forever remain an inspiration to all who knew him. Be it resolved by the Cherokee Nation that nation hereby recognizes former Deputy Chief Hastings Shade as a national treasure of the Cherokee Nation for his cultural contribution, his encouragement, statesmanship to the Cherokee people. And I put this in form of a motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item 8 out of Executive and Finance Committee is an amendment authorizing modification 5 to the 2010 budget. Mr. Jack Baker.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Speaker. This budget mod increases by over $7 million in the budget to a $600 million budget. $5,787,000 of that are grants, which include Great Sequoia High of $155,000, Health and Human Services $5,476,000, which is primarily for the diabetes program. And for HUD, a Terrell monitoring program of $25,878, Environmental Protection Agency $129,000, and also in additional funding is NAHASTA funding of $1,733,000, primarily for modernization and rehabilitation of homes. And the Juvenile Drug Court $141,000. And I make a motion to be approved by acclamation.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Good job. Item 9 is a resolution submitting a grant application to the Health and Human Services for training and certifying teachers and translators in the Cherokee language. Ms. Coates.
Yes, this is an application, authorization for an application for an A&A grant to provide a current description of the language status, to train and certify teachers and translators in the Cherokee language, and to disseminate materials for the teaching and enhancement of the Cherokee language. And I move for its approval.
Second the motion.
Moving second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Ms. Coates, would you take item 10 also? This resolution is also a grant application to HHS.
Yes, it is. And it is to support the planning, design, and implementing of the Cherokee language instructional materials and activities, facilitating intergenerational teaching of the Cherokee language, and enhancing teacher training for the immersion school. And I move for its approval.
Second the motion.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item 11 is a resolution recognizing Reverend Charles O. Walker. Mr. Baker.
Yes. This is a resolution recognizing Reverend Walker of Georgia as a friend of the Cherokees. Reverend Walker has spent many years researching the historic sites and home places of the Cherokees in Georgia. He's written numerous articles and books about the Cherokees in Georgia. He's an accomplished artist, and his drawings of Cherokee sites and homes are part of many of the permanent exhibits, including those at Newashota, the Van House, and the Trail of Tears exhibit here at the Cherokee Heritage Center. And his health is failing, and his community is having an appreciation reception for him in a couple of weeks. And I would like to make a motion that this be approved.
Second. Moved in second. Any discussion? Are you going to that?
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item 12 is a resolution authorizing the sale of inherited property in California. Mr. Jack Baker again.
Yes. This is a resolution that authorizes the sale of inherited property in the state of California. It was property that was willed, it was a condominium that was willed to the Cherokee Nation for use in scholarship funds. And it's a condominium, as I said, that is worth around a little over $600,000, has a $160,000 mortgage and $1,000 a month condo fees. So I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution authorizing the Cherokee Nation to sell condos so that we can tap into the funds for higher education.
Second the motion.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on down to announcements. Our next meeting is April 12th at 6 p.m. Do I have any other announcements? Yes, Ms. Calwatt?
Madam Speaker, would you so graciously remind folks of our upcoming joint council and maybe what they should expect? Because I believe that's before our next.
Yeah.
Or no, it's right after, isn't it?
It's after. But you can so graciously remind them if you want.
So it's the Friday following our regularly scheduled council meeting is the actual public part of the meeting. And it would be April the 16th on a Friday, if I don't stand corrected, we would be having our meeting at Catoosa at the Hard Rock facility with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians.
Yes, thank you. Any other announcements, Mr. Baker?
Yes, Madam Chairman, it's my honor and privilege again. We have a Cherokee elder who happens to really be her birthday today, and we have Ollie Starr in the back row from the Pocahontas Club out of Rogers County, and it is her birthday.
Happy birthday. Any other announcements? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.